Virgo, you have been wondering, maybe you have not said it to anyone, maybe you have barely admitted it to yourself, but somewhere in the quiet of an ordinary moment, in the space between one thought and the next, the question has been there. What are they thinking? Not in the obsessive way, not in the way that keeps someone up at night running scenarios, in the way that belongs to anyone who has shared something real with another person and then found themselves on the outside of that person's inner world, unable to see in, uncertain of what is happening behind the glass. Today, I am going to tell you, not in approximations, not in the careful spiritual language that circles around the truth without landing on it. I am going to go inside. I am going to describe what I find there. And you are going to recognize it because some part of you already knows. You have just been waiting for something outside yourself to confirm what your instincts have been quietly insisting on. This is that confirmation. The first thing I encounter when I enter this person's mental and emotional space is not what I expected. It is not drama. It is not the loud, agitated, visibly turbulent inner world you might imagine when someone is in the middle of a significant feeling. It is something much more unsettling than drama, actually. It is a loop, a specific, recurring, stubbornly persistent loop that returns to the same place regardless of how many times they try to redirect away from it. And the place it keeps returning to is you. Not a generalized thought about the situation between you, not an abstract wondering about how things turned out. Something far more specific than that. Moments, particular detailed sensory memories of specific moments, the sound of your voice in a specific conversation, the exact quality of your attention when you were fully present with them. Uh, a thing you said that they replayed so many times it has worn smooth in the replaying, like a stone carried in a pocket. They cannot exit the loop. They have tried. And each attempt to redirect has confirmed by the difficulty of the redirecting exactly how deeply you have settled into them. I want to go deeper into what is actually running through their mind. And I am going to do this differently from any way I have described inner experience before in these readings. I am going to let the thoughts arrive the way thoughts actually arrive, not organized, not polished into something presentable in the raw, fragmented, circling way of a real interior. They are thinking about something you did that you have probably forgotten. Something small, an unremarkable gesture in an unremarkable moment that you would not be able to identify if someone asked you to name it. But they remember it with a specificity that would surprise you. They have returned to it more times than they would be comfortable admitting, and every return produces the same thing, a warmth that has nowhere to go, a recognition of something in you that they have not found reproduced anywhere else, in anyone else, in any of the time that has passed since you were last in each other's orbit. They are thinking about whether they handled things correctly, not as a rhetorical exercise, as a genuine, recurring audit of their own choices that keeps returning verdicts. They do not find comfortable. They know something. They may not have said it out loud yet, but the internal verdict has been in for a while now. The way things unfolded was not entirely right. There were moments that belonged to honesty that were given to something else instead. And the distance between what happened and what should have happened is something they are living with in the particular way you live with things you cannot undo. Mm. And they are thinking about what you are doing now, not with jealousy exactly, with something more complicated. A quality of attention that wants to know you are okay, that is genuinely relieved when any information reaches them suggesting that you are, and simultaneously complicated by the knowledge that your okayness exists independently of them, that your life has continued and is continuing and is producing things in you, a clarity, a groundedness, a fullness that they can sense even at a distance, and that simultaneously moves them and costs them something to feel. I see the first image now, and it belongs exactly here in this reading, in this space of interiority. I see a room that is theirs alone, not a public space, not a place of performance or interaction or the management of how they are perceived, a private room. The room inside a person that exists beneath everything they show to the world, that holds what does not get said, that accumulates what cannot be released anywhere else. And in this room, your presence is not a visitor, it is furniture. I mean that with precision, not something that arrived and left, something that has become part of the architecture of this interior space. Something that was placed there at some point and that has, over time, stopped being something added and become something that belongs, that would leave a shape behind if it were removed. That has changed the feel of the room simply by being a consistent presence within it. You are part of their interior landscape, not at the surface, not in the visiting layer of thoughts that move through and keep moving in the structural layer. In the part that does not shift with mood or circumstance or the deliberate decisions of an intellect that would prefer to be free of the weight of you. That is where you live in them. And that does not change because time passes. If anything, the settling goes deeper. I want to describe what happens in the moments when they are closest to reaching out, because there are those moments more frequently than you might assume, and the texture of what happens in them is specific enough to name something reminds them of you, not always something grand, often something absurdly small, a phrase, a particular quality of light at a specific time of day. Something someone says that you would have said differently, better, with more precision or more warmth or more of that particular quality that is yours alone. And in the moment of that reminder, the distance between the thought and the action of reaching out collapses to almost nothing. The phone is in their hand, or their hand moves toward it, or they open something and sit with the cursor blinking at them in an empty message field, and all the words that have been accumulating in the private room are suddenly right there, pressing against the threshold of being sent. And then something happens. Not a decision exactly, more like a weight, the weight of everything that is unresolved, the awareness of what reaching out would open, what it would require, what it would ask of both of you and of them specifically, the fear that what they send will not convey the full size of what they mean, the deeper fear that it will, and that the full size of what they mean will be more than the current moment between you can hold. They close the message. They do not delete it. Always. Sometimes it sits there, unsent, preserved in the drafts of wherever such things live, returned to, added to, occasionally, never sent. A letter that keeps being written and never arrives. Let me speak now about the specific thing they are carrying that they have not told anyone, including you, especially you. It is not regret in the ordinary sense. Regret implies a wish that things had gone differently in some general way. What this person carries is more targeted than that. It is the awareness of a specific moment, one moment, where the thing that needed to be said was right there, available, true, ready. And they felt it, and they had the words, and they made a calculation in a fraction of a second that the moment was not right, that there would be another one, that the feeling could be held a little longer without losing anything essential. They were wrong about that. The moment did not come again in the same form, and they know it. They have replayed it with the particular obsessiveness of someone trying to find the alternative ending, trying to locate the version of events where they said the thing and it landed the way it would have landed, and everything that followed was shaped by that different starting point. They go back to it again and again, not to torture themselves, but because some part of them refuses to accept that it is finished, that the moment is sealed, that the words, had they been spoken, would have changed the trajectory of everything. They would have, and on some level, they know that too. Tell me in the comments if you know what moment this is. You do not have to describe it, but I want to know if there is a moment that exists in your shared history that you have also returned to. A specific point where something shifted, where the conversation almost went somewhere it did not go, where something hung in the air between you and then passed without being named. Because the energy of this reading is pointing toward something very precise, and I think you will recognize it without needing it described further. Just tell me yes. If you know the moment, just tell me yes. The second image that comes through now is unlike anything in this reading so far. I see two fires, not in the same place, separate, burning at their own pace in their own space, with the particular self-sufficiency of fires that have learned to sustain themselves without outside fuel. And these two fires are not aware of each other in the way that things in proximity are usually aware of each other. They cannot see each other, cannot feel each other's heat directly, but they share the same sky, and the light they each produce travels, moves outward, reaches distances that neither fire, burning alone in its own location, is aware of generating. And somewhere in the space between them, that light overlaps, creates something in the air between them that is neither fire alone, but something that belongs to both of them. This is the space between you and this person right now. A shared sky neither of you is looking at consciously. A light neither of you is deliberately projecting, but something that is real and present and moving in the space between you, regardless of whether either of you is paying attention to it. The fires do not need to know about each other to be connected by what they generate. And you do not need to be in active contact with this person for what exists between you to be active. It already is. I want to talk about something that has been sitting at the edge of this reading, waiting for the right moment. This person is not just thinking about what was, they are thinking about what could be. And this is the part that surprises me about the energy, because it would have been possible to read this situation as purely retrospective, as someone sitting in the past, processing what happened, working through the aftermath of something that has concluded. But that is not what I am encountering when I go deep into this interior space. What I find there is not a person who has closed the chapter. It is a person who is looking at a chapter they never properly opened and wondering whether it is too late to open it, whether the conditions that existed then still exist in some form now, whether the version of you that exists today, the one they can sense, has been through things and has been changed by those things in ways that make you simultaneously more yourself and more unknown to them, whether that version would still receive them, would still have anything for them, would still be willing to be in the same space of genuine vulnerability and genuine hoping with them. They do not know the answer to that question. And the not knowing is the thing that keeps them in the loop. Here is what else is on their mind. How you are remembered by other people, not in a surveillance way, not checking or monitoring, but genuinely, quietly curious about the impression you leave in rooms and conversations and the minds of people who have encountered you. Because their experience of you produced something in them that felt singular, and some part of them has been wondering whether that singularity is specific to them, whether they were the only one to encounter you in that particular way, or whether everyone who truly pays attention to you comes away with the same sense of having touched something that does not exist in ordinary abundance. They suspect the latter. And that suspicion does something complicated to them. It makes you more precious and less accessible in the same moment. It produces a kind of awe that coexists with a grief, that coexists with a love that has nowhere to place itself right now except in the private room among the furniture of their interior, where you have been living for long enough that the room would be unrecognizable without you. The third image arrives now, and it is the quietest image of this entire reading. I see a window at night, not the window I described in an earlier reading. This one is not about light coming in. This one is about someone standing at a window in the dark, looking out, seeing not the external landscape, but their own reflection superimposed on it. The window functioning as a mirror in the nighttime way that windows do, and this person is looking at themselves, not with vanity, with the particular quality of someone who is asking themselves a question they do not yet have the answer to. The question is about courage, not in the dramatic sense, in the intimate, private, quietly enormous sense of whether they have what it takes to say the true thing, to cross the distance, to open the draft that keeps being closed, to find the moment and not miss it this time, not let the calculation override the impulse the way it did before, not stand at the edge of the thing they mean and speak something smaller than it, because the full size of it is frightening to release into the world where it might or might not be received. They are standing at that window right now, asking themselves the question. The answer is still forming. But the fact that they are asking it, the fact that the question has become impossible to avoid, means something. It means the private room has run out of space. It means the unsent letter is running out of blank pages. It means the loop has circled back to the beginning enough times that something in them is beginning to understand that the only exit from it is not more circling. It is the thing they have been circling around. It is you. In case you were wondering, that is what is on their mind. Not a cleaned up version. Not the version that would be comfortable to admit in public or presentable enough to offer without risk. The real version. The version that lives in the private room, that keeps the loop running, that stands at the night window asking the question about courage that has been accumulating in a draft that has never been sent. You are on their mind in the way that only real things occupy a person's mind, persistently, structurally, in the layer that does not respond to redirection. And the question of what happens next, whether the letter gets sent, whether the window reflection resolves into an answer, whether the courage is found or the moment passes one more time, that question does not belong to this reading. It belongs to them, and possibly, if you choose to let it, to you. What you do with this knowing is entirely yours. But you asked what was on their mind. Now you know,